Old Gick once mused, twirling a glass of potent brew, that humans are peculiar in their disobedience. Their instincts are uniquely flawed. Laughter had filled the cantina of the Syndicate when he said it. To the apex predators of the galaxy, the Aranth trackers, Veen slicers, and Kutcher lurkers, humans were just a curious oddity. Primitive, frail, with fleeting lifespans, seemingly easy targets as the tales suggested. Yet Vero was not amused now. The dimly lit hallways of his aging freighter buzzed with a grim, almost eerie hum. The once bustling transport ship was now a battered shell, scarred by laser blasts, with panels dangling loosely and sporadic sparks cascading to the floor. Vero's broad shoulders brushed against the tight corridor walls as he marched forward, pulse rifle ready. Activity on Deck 3, Wrath's voice crackled through the comm, laden with static. Acknowledged, Vok responded. Maintain your post. I'll handle this one. Z scoffed. Good luck with that. Alpha Barak dismissed the mockery, concentrating on his environment. The human was alarmingly astute, almost too much so. A false distress beacon had lured them in, and a precisely timed explosion had thrown their invasion into disarray. 3 of his crew had already fallen, one to a gravity-based snare sharp and sudden, the others to explosions. A slight metallic sound caught his attention. He methodically scanned the corridor with his quartet of eyes, moving cautiously forward. Renowned as the top hunter in 3 sectors, his name was synonymous with numerous conquests across various planets. He reassured himself that humans were just like any other prey. They too would bleed. Suddenly, another noise, this time a scrape, alarmingly near. Vero pivoted and launched a blast from his rifle into the shadows. The projectile hit the metal wall, returning the hallway to momentary silence. But then the lights went out. Typical strategy, he muttered, activating the thermal vision on his visor. A palette of reds and oranges illuminated the corridor. He scanned each direction, left, right, then up, nothing. It was his quick reflexes that saved him next, as he dodged an object plummeting towards him. A high-pitched whistle followed, then sparks erupted beside him. He rolled to his feet, firing wildly. The elusive heat signature evaded his shots. Curse it, he growled, frustration mounting. They're swift. What's the situation? Zatz inquired sharply. Engaged, yet uncontained, Nuck responded irritably. Focus on securing the exits. As Nuck prepared to reply, another sound diverted his attention. A mocking, rhythmic tap resonating down the hallway. He swore softly and advanced towards the sound. Several decks above, Sam Carter was nestled inside an air vent, observing the unfolding pandemonium via a security monitor. The alien below was massive, over 7 feet tall, resembling a heavily laden transport vehicle. His armor, an amalgam of pilfered metal and trophies, shone dimly. Thinks he's chasing me, Sam whispered, suppressing a smirk. His voice was almost drowned out by the noise of his breathing apparatus. Next to him, a basic tablet blinked erratically with a simple layout of the ship. He flicked through the camera feeds. One foe incapacitated on Deck 4, another knocked out near the hold, leaving 2 more, both formidably armed. Sam took a deep breath, his situation dire. Since the Syndicate pirates had ambushed them, he'd been at a disadvantage, outmanned and outgunned, surviving on sheer nerve. With his crew lost, his vessel in ruins, and options dwindling, Sam was determined not to fold easily. Okay, big fella, he murmured under his breath. Time for a little shock. Nearby, Barnu located the origin of the persistent tapping, a slightly open maintenance hatch. He scowled at the annoyance. Peeking inside, his thermal vision unveiled a jumble of wires and cooling ducts. A subtle heat signature beckoned from deeper within. To him, the human seemed frail, easily crushed if cornered. This was just about pressing the advantage. He ducked into the narrow vent, stooping to fit. As he moved closer, the heat signal intensified and he smirked. The human had left a trace. Suddenly, his eyes fixed on a peculiar, small item affixed to the wall ahead. It was cool to the touch, not a heat source, but realization struck him a fraction too late. The ensuing blast propelled him back into the hallway. Although his armor shielded him from the worst, the shockwave left him rattled, his visor spider-webbed. The corridor lights switched to emergency red as alarm sounded. Vuk, what's your status? Zara's voice demanded. Groggily, Varric pushed himself to his feet. The humans proving cunning, ZTH observed with a snicker. Perhaps you require assistance? Hold your positions, Vero retorted sharply. I've got this under control. Communication ended and Varric reset his visor. This human was not merely evading. He was engaging them, flipping the hunter-prey dynamic, a refreshing challenge. From his hidden viewpoint, Sam observed the alien's staggered recovery on another screen. Resilient one, he commented quietly, marking another note on his tablet. The trap had been a makeshift coolant bomb, enough to disorient, not to kill. His survival hinged on outmaneuver outmaneuvering them, taking them out one at a time. Halfway there, he breathed out, glancing at his watch. Time was slipping. The life support system was nearing its end. Every second counted now. The alien warship outside cast a vast shadow, eclipsing the stars. Inside, he pictured the Syndicate's crew tense, anticipating the outcome. Sam dabbed at the sweat on his forehead and adjusted his pack, filled with the last remnants of his crew's equipment. Tools, pilfered explosives, and a datapad crammed with complex blueprints. He clicked his comm device. This ship might be on its last legs, but so are they. Time to spice things up. Stealthily, Zath moved through the darker reaches of Deck 4, his blades emitting a soft, eerie glow. Unlike Varno's lumbering might, Zerth was akin to a wraith, adept at striking unseen. Humiliated by the human's earlier tactics, his pride stung, urging him to settle the score. He paused, tuning into a subtle noise in the corridor, not caused by the failing ship systems. It grew clearer, rhythmic, reminiscent of music. Zath advanced, low and cautious, his weapon ready. As he turned the corner, his keen vision instantly located a small device atop a crate, blaring out harsh, rhythmic beats, unmistakably human and brash, akin to their combat drills. A trap, undoubtedly, but Zath was swift. He threw a blade, slicing the device in two, silencing the noise instantly. But the silence was short-lived. The crate erupted spectacularly, sending Zath hurtling back, his blade clattering to the ground as he crashed against the bulkhead, engulfed in fire and debris. Vero spun around just in time to see Sam emerging from his cover, a grim determination set on his face. "Got something for you," Sam said, his voice cool as he lobbed another compact device towards Vero. Instinctively, Vero swatted at the incoming object, but as his hand made contact, the device clung to his armor with a magnetic click. A quick glance confirmed his worst fear. It was another mine, its lights blinking menacingly. "You think this will stop me?" Vero bellowed, trying to pry the mine off, his movements frantic. "Nope," Sam called out, already ducking back into the shadows. "But it might slow you down." The mine detonated with a deafening roar, a wave of heat and force throwing Vero backward. His armor, though designed to withstand considerable damage, groaned under the stress, circuits frying and displays blinking out. As he struggled to his feet, dazed and disoriented, the reality of his predicament dawned on him. Sam, meanwhile, sprinted through the labyrinth of the engineering deck, his steps quick and light. He knew he didn't have much time left. The ship's systems were failing, and the mine he had placed on the reactor was more than just a distraction. It was a last-ditch effort to end this chase permanently. Reaching a control panel, Sam frantically tapped into the ship's failing systems. He needed to create an escape route, and the only way out was to make it appear as a trap. He quickly programmed a delay into the reactor mine's detonation sequence, giving himself just enough time to escape. Back in the engineering deck, Vero regained his footing, his senses returning as the ringing in his ears subsided. The smell of burnt electronics and scorched metal filled the air, a testament to the human's resourcefulness. Vero realized then that he wasn't just hunting a desperate prey, but was engaged in a battle of wits against an opponent who was as dangerous as he was cunning. "You are clever, human," Vero grunted, resetting his visor to enhance his thermal imaging. The corridor ahead was a mess of heat signatures from the explosion, but one trail was fresher, heading towards the rear of the ship. Sam's voice crackled through the comm once more, taunting, "You're not dealing with just any human. You're playing my game now." Vero snarled, his frustration boiling over. "We end this now," he declared, charging down the corridor with renewed vigor. As the chase resumed, Sam reached the rear airlock, his escape route meticulously planned. He slid the last mine into place, setting the timer in sync with the reactors. This was it, the culmination of his desperate gambit. Vero was close now, his heavy steps echoing through the metal corridors. Sam sealed the airlock door behind him and punched the release, propelling himself into the void of space just as the reactor finally went critical. Behind him, the ship erupted in a blinding explosion, the shockwave hurling debris in all directions. Sam's makeshift escape pod, barely more than a maintenance shuttle, rattled violently as he made his getaway. As the flames subsided and the debris settled, Vero, though battered and bruised, realized the extent of Sam's plan. Not only had he escaped, but he had also ensured that any pursuit would be caught in the chaos of a dying ship. Floating away in his shuttle, Sam looked back at the wreckage, a wry smile crossing his lips. "Unpredictable, my ass," he muttered, already plotting his course to safety. The game was over, and against all odds, the human had won. He turned, eyes narrowing at the blinking lights. "What did you do?" Sam's voice, now tinged with mirth, came through once more. "Oh, you'll see." The Syndicate warship, now perilously close, cast a menacing shadow over the freighter, its docking clamps poised like the jaws of a beast. Inside the airlock, the atmosphere tensed, the only sounds the steady hiss of escaping air and the distant hum of the failing ship's systems. Vero, frustration mounting, eyed the control panel where a sequence of lights cascaded in an ominous countdown. "This isn't over, human," he declared, his voice echoing in the metal chamber. Sam, concealed behind the bulkhead, watched the alien through a crack in the wall, his breathing controlled despite the adrenaline coursing through him. "It's pretty much over," he replied calmly, his hand resting on another device in his pocket. This one was linked directly to the emergency systems he had rigged. The airlock's controls were now a trap, part of Sam's intricate plan to ensure that any attempt to follow him would lead to catastrophe for the pursuers. He had anticipated every move, calculated every outcome, and now it all came down to this moment. Vero, catching the hint of finality in Sam's voice, paused, his instincts screaming warnings. He glanced at the control panel again, the red lights blinking in a steady rhythm, signaling imminent danger. His rage battled with his survival instinct, the hunter's drive clashing with the cold realization of the trap laid before him. "You think you can bluff your way out of this?" Vero challenged, stepping away from the panel, his eyes still locked on the shadows where he thought Sam might be hiding. Sam smirked, unseen. "Not bluffing, just better planning," he answered. With a swift motion, he pressed the device in his pocket, activating the final phase of his trap. Instantly, the airlock doors sealed shut with a thud, the sound of locking mechanisms clicking into place resonant in the now fully isolated chamber. Vero turned, a look of disbelief crossing his features as he realized the extent of Sam's trap. The control panel flashed violently, then emitted a small, high-pitched whine, the last sound before the explosive Sam had rigged earlier detonated. The blast was confined, designed not to breach the hull but to incapacitate and disorient any within the airlock. Vero was thrown back against the wall, his armor absorbing much of the shock, but the concussive force left him dazed and momentarily helpless. Sam took this opportunity to sprint towards the secondary hatch, his legs pumping as he navigated the cramped, emergency-lit corridors. Reaching the hatch, he threw it open and propelled himself through, sealing it behind him just as the airlock exploded in a contained but powerful blast. As he made his way to the escape pod, the freighter around him groaned and creaked under the strain of damage and neglect. He slipped into the pod, initiating the launch sequence. The small craft detached from the freighter, thrusting away into the void as the Syndicate's warship loomed large. Behind him, the freighter began to implode, the destruction cascading through its sections, a magnificent yet destructive chain reaction initiated by one man's desperate fight for survival. Vero, recovering slowly, realized too late that his prey was no longer aboard. As the freighter broke apart, the warship had to pull back to avoid the debris, its mission a failure. Sam watched the freighter's final moments from the safety of his escape pod, a tight grin of relief and exhaustion crossing his face. "Guess I'm not so predictable after all," he whispered to himself, setting the coordinates that would take him far from the clutches of the Syndicate and into the unknown. This thrilling climax skillfully closes the chapter of a desperate, cunning escape, showcasing the ingenuity and resilience of humanity in the face of overwhelming alien threats. The strategic interactions between Sam and Vero highlight the thematic core of the story, the unpredictability and tenacity of humans, even when cornered. The final sequence where Sam triggers the explosion, ensuring his escape while leaving Vero to face the consequences, serves as a turning point for both characters. Sam's escape is not just physical but represents a victory of human cunning over brute strength and advanced technology. His last look at the exploding ship, a mix of relief and satisfaction, underscores the sacrifices and quick thinking that defined his survival. Vero's emergence from the wreckage symbolizes the harsh reality that even the mightiest can fall. His realization that he, a seasoned hunter, was outsmarted and defeated shifts his perspective on humans. This moment of humility might pave the way for his character development in potential sequels, where he could reassess his underestimation of human ingenuity or seek redemption. The story closes on a poignant note, leaving readers to ponder the broader implications of such interstellar conflicts and the indomitable human spirit. This narrative could easily extend into further explorations of the Syndicate's motives, the aftermath of the explosion on interstellar politics, or a deeper dive into the personal consequences for both Sam and Vero as they navigate their respective worlds post-conflict.